standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord God of hosts.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Continuing today in the book of Isaiah in chapter 41. We are picking it up at verse 21, but we're going to read through it again. Just to start, I do like this. It helps me. And it'll make it a better study. And also remind us where we are. It just takes a couple minutes. Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Let them come near, let them speak, let us come near together to judgment. Who raised up the righteous man from the east, called him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings? He gave them as dust to his sword, and as driven stubble to his bow. He pursued them and passed safely, even by the way that he had not gone with his feet. Who hath wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning? I, the Lord, the first, and with the last, I am he. The isles saw it and feared. The ends of the world were afraid, drew near and came. They helped everyone his neighbor, and everyone said to his brother, Be of good courage. So the carpenter encouraged the goldsmith, and he that smootheth with the hammer him that smote the anvil, saying, It's ready for the soldering. And he fastened it with nails, that it should not be moved. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham my friend, thou whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the chief men thereof, and said unto thee, Thou art my servant. I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee, yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Behold, all they that were incensed against thee shall be ashamed and confounded. They shall be as nothing, and they that strive with thee shall perish. Thou shalt seek them, and shalt not find them, even them that contend with thee. They that war against thee shall be as nothing, and as a thing of naught. For I, the Lord, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee. Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and ye men of Israel, I will help thee, saith the Lord, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument, having teeth. Thou shalt thresh the nations, and beat them small, and shalt make the hills as chaff. Thou shalt fan them, and the wind shall carry them away, and the whirlwind shall scatter them, and thou shalt rejoice in the Lord, and shalt glory in the Holy One of Israel. When the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I will open rivers in high places, and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water, and the dry land springs of water. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar, the shittah tree, and the myrtle, and the oil tree. I will set in the desert the fir tree, and the pine, and the box tree together, that they may see, and know, and consider, and understand together, that the hand of the Lord hath done this, the Holy One of Israel hath created it. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and show us what shall happen. Let them show the former things what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us things for to come. Show the things that are to come hereafter, that we may know that ye are gods. Yea, do good or do evil, that we may be dismayed, and behold it together. Behold, ye are of nothing, and your work of naught, and abomination is he that chooseth you. I have raised up one from the north, and he shall come. From the rising of the sun shall he call upon my name, and he shall come upon princes as upon mortar, and as a potter treadeth clay. Who hath declared from the beginning, that we may know, and before time that we may say he is righteous? Yea, there is none that showeth, yea, there is none that declareth, yea, there is none that heareth your words. The first shall say to Zion, Behold, behold them, and I will give to Jerusalem one that bringeth good tidings. For I beheld, and there was no man, even among them, and there was no counselor, that when I asked of them, could answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity, their works are nothing, their molten images are wind and confusion. And then he turns their attention to his servant. I'm not going to answer that. I'm pretty sure actually I know what it is, but I just got to let it ring. Okay, that's because I have an actual landline. And it's done. Oh, one more. It rings 4 times. There we go. A lot of times I grab it and it's like the insurance, but I think it actually might be my doctor, so I didn't want to take the call right now. So, that's one of the beauties of pre-recording. So as we were going through this, a few things, it's good to have the second and third thoughts. It's interesting. There was really nothing I thought about the opening. They that war against thee shall be nothing. Thou shalt fan them. We talked about the poor and needy. I know we're on verse 21. I just want to look at pool of water. Incensed. That means driven to anger or driven to jealousy or whatever. I didn't actually look up the Hebrew. It doesn't matter. I just thought the English. I'm like, as I read it, I'm like, I wonder if anyone ever heard that and thought incensed, like had incense shoved at them. Like maybe it would be confusing. Maybe that's a ridiculous thing to point out. But anyway, English words can kind of sound the same, homophones. When the poor and needy seek water, okay. The plantings in the wilderness, God's blessing. So these kittens, I'm the one that blesses and keeps you, Jacob. I'm the one that blesses you. I'm the one that has called you. These idols, why? Why? What's the purpose behind it? They're nothing. And so he does all this. And if it's any a time for the Lord to boast, here it is after he has delivered them from the Assyrian. And all this has come to pass. The land would be restored when it's that they would know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord hath done this and the Holy One of Israel hath created it. Now, as far as whether that word is worthy of emphasizing, as far as the language, understand together, well, that they may see and understand, not as individuals, but collectively. And that is something that is important. And it has to do with God being revealed. I talked about, hey, we put our faith in God, but to have faith in God, God has to be revealed to me. Like he literally has, like for me to truly believe God exists, that means in some way, maybe in a very subtle fashion in my mind, the existence of God becomes a reality, as far as to me. Is that fact of God being real in my mind is a component of belief. Because that's belief, I have to believe. He may be real outside of me, but in my mind, do I believe in him? And so, you have to, in order to believe, you have to sort of have a reason. Now, sometimes it's because we were raised to believe, and it was something we were told from our youth. And so, I have no real coming to knowledge, oh, God's real. But when I had started to have doubts, because it was because here's the thing: if it's when you teach your kids from their youth that God exists, there are going to come very strong doubts against that at some point, possibly, at least. I mean, very likely, I think, because of the nature of the world. But and that is something that I'm not going to talk about guarding again. It's ultimately you do what is best, whatever seems to be best, whatever the Lord has given you an instruction that and with the rest you do as good as you can think of to raise your kids carefully and mindfully, but you can't control it in the end. And in the end, I began to doubt the existence of God entirely. Though I still believe, I didn't stop believing ever, But then, as I'm coming to this low spot, the Lord reveals himself to me, like in a stunning way, because in my mind he was already there. I believed in him, but I was beginning to think like maybe I should drop all that. Because people do. And the Lord doesn't always, the thing is, the Lord doesn't always come and rescue you when you start to doubt. But not everybody asks him to, and I did. I called on the name of Jesus. That's why when I talk to atheists, I always tell them, I'm like, you know what? This is why I believe in God, because when I call on his name, he gave me his power. Why don't you try that sometime? Or are you afraid? And they don't. I've never, I want you to sincerely, when you go home, not in front of me as a joke. Go home, think about your life, and then start talking to God, and make sure you call in the name of Jesus and ask him to reveal himself to you. I dare you. I dare you. They get really pissed off. Generally. Not always. A lot of times they just go quiet at that point. Whatever. It's like, that's all I can say. You're not going to convince me he isn't real. Just zero chance of that. So, that's the very least thing. He's real. You got to have faith. Which means you got to wait on the Lord. He doesn't just hop to your every command, mister. People think they're so important. The God should, what can I do for you, human? Oh, you don't like the way things are, the way I run my universe? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, how can I change it for you? What kind of goof do they take him for? He has done it. He created it. Produce your cause. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Come on, convince us. Bring forth your predictive whatever. These days, there's a lot of predictive power in materialism. Predicting material forces and material this and that. But tell us the things that are to come. The human events. What's going to happen with the nations? Or with the stars? Are we going to get... they can look in the sky with a telescope and tell us if a meteor's coming, perhaps, if they can spot it. That's not necessarily miraculous, but what about human events? What are people going to be doing in 100 years? I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, when they talked about the future, they totally got it wrong. It's totally wrong. That's why I don't believe them now. Don't believe them. Kids, they lie to you about the future. They lie to you, kids, at school about the environment and stuff. Big liars. They do that. They brainwashed kids. That's why we got just stupid people running around. They spend more time brainwashing them than they do educating them. Education should be teaching kids skills like critical thinking and mathematics, reading, writing, of course. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Critical thinking, which should be part of history, social studies, and of course science. And of course physical education, I'm a huge advocate of. And other, different arts, the home arts, because they're important too. Everyone's got to have a home and live there. But to me, economics and mathematics, it's all kind of just derivative. Or maybe be considered under social studies. All right. The Holy One of Israel hath created it. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth and show us what shall happen. Let them show them the former things, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, and declare to us, tell us the future. Not that just with you can, like oh well, this rocks can roll down the hill. See, look at blah, 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 blah. No. Like, what's going to happen to China in 100 years? Do you know? What's the United States going to be in 50 years? They say a lot of things. If this trend continues, if that trend... Trends never continue, by the way. They never continue. Isn't that funny? Trends never, ever, ever, ever continue. Not for long. It's the whole point. You know what I mean? Some trends might continue, I suppose. No, but they don't. They break down. Even things like, if we keep polluting this way, we'll all be dead. Well, then we'll stop polluting that way, won't we? When we're all dead. And that's not the, I'm not railing against that in that sense. I'm just saying, I do believe in keeping the planet clean, yes. You don't want to wreck the place you live. It seems pretty obvious to me, It is obvious to most people. If there was common sense, we could probably... We have used common sense, and everything is a lot cleaner than it used to be, actually, which people don't understand. During the Industrial Revolution, it was very dirty. I don't want to talk about environmental crap, though. I really don't. Okay, then we'd be dismayed. Okay, because I'm just saying all the alarmism, like it's just all the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Oh, enough. Because that's the thing is like, I'm not saying like just some people predict roses and buttercups for the future, never-ending prosperity. I want to no, just never-ending dismay and demise. There's plenty of prophets of doom and of positive, but it's like even a broken clock is right twice a day, as they say, and so false prophets also will occasionally hit something if they're making in Christianity we have no prophets, barely. Maybe we got one or two, but we don't have a lot of prophets, but we have plenty of prophecy buffs. Most of our prophecy teachers are prophecy buffs. That's why I look at it. It's like they're just, and they're basically just they're less focused on the prophecy than they are on. I wanted a word to begin with P, because I wanted to make it an alliteration. Than they are with publicity. How about that? They're less concerned with prophecy than they are with the paper. What's going on in the newspaper? What's going on outside? How can we plug that into prophecy? That's just not, that's fine. If you understand prophecy, you'll recognize when something's happening in the external world that fits in. You shouldn't have to scour the news for it, though. Like something that's truly prophetic should come to your door. Like I thought the pandemic was maybe not something that had been predicted precisely, unless, someone was asking me questions like, does it have anything to do with Revelation? It's like, not that I see so far. Not as far as like, this is not the end times, as far as I can tell at this point. But does it have something to do with Revelation? Yes, for sure. Revelation speaks to things like the pandemic and like things like vaccine passports. They aren't the mark of the beast, but they're just like it. And we should reject it because it's a marker of evil. People who want to mark and count people and control people are evil. They're evil. And they should be resisted. And that's the thing. People think that if they continue to obey, we'll go back to normal. That's not happening. You can't go back to normal by continuing to do what the authoritarians tell you to. Are you insane? You have to ignore them because they don't really have any power in this country. They can't actually do all this stuff. Yeah, what do they employ? Just to everyone. Well, what about my job? Then you know what? Everyone go on strike. Stop being such weaklings. Didn't we all just have a bunch of money thrown at us? If we ever had the power to kick back, it was right then. Yeah, except except when you needed it so bad, you could hardly move without it. They certainly got a hold on the country. All right, so let them bring them forth. Show us what will happen. You know. So let these gods and their prophets, by extension, because gods always have prophets, you know, and followers. That's who he's speaking to, the followers of these gods, or to Jacob, really. Like, why would you ever follow idols when the living God is here to bless you, to hold your hand, to take you, to restore you, to plant, to make water spring up in the wilderness for you? All that God has done on your behalf, Israel. Why would you exchange that for nothing? You are of nothing. You come from, you're of nothing. I wonder if that's, I almost want to look at that. I do. I want to know what that is. Because of nothing. 21, 22, right? 23, actually. No, wait, 24. You're of nothing. Okay, it doesn't give me any help. When the whole thing is, that means it's like, yeah, they're not going to tell me, like, there it is, of nothing. Epha? There's two words for nothing and not here. What's interesting that I found right there, abomination, huh? Ye are of nothing, and your work of naught. Of naught, they say, means of nothing. So, you have nothing, and your work is of nothing. Now, they changed it, which is good because it's two different words. They use two different words there, so that's a good choice. And you wouldn't want to use the same word, and it's different, because it kind of ruins the thing. So, let's see. See here I don't approve of this. New American Standard Bible says, you are less than nothing, and your work is less than nothing. He who chooses you is an abomination. That seems more like thought for thought in my mind, but because there's a lot of words for so few in Hebrew. But whatever. I mean, I do agree that that's what it means. You're like the least nothing. Like you're nothing from nothing. You know? So that's fine. But yeah, the word nothing and not are two different words in Hebrew, so that's just something that makes it pretty, you know, when you write, you like to use different words. You don't want to use nothing and nothing twice if they didn't, because it kind of ruins what they were doing poetically. You know, and that's why the New American Standard there was definitely dropping the ball. Whoa, I'm almost, oh wait, I didn't switch back yet. Well, since I didn't switch back yet, hold on. I was about to say, hey, what's the NIV do with that verse? I was just curious. What's the NIV do? They do it better than the New American Standard? Let's see. You're less than nothing, and your works are utterly worthless. It's fine. Whoever chooses you is detestable. Abomination, fine. Okay. So that's fine. And so when after he looks, abomination is he that chooseth you. You know, choosing idols is abomination. Liars are an abomination. It's detestable. There are a lot of things which the Lord doth abhor, and find abominate. Commit things we are, in a sense, detestable. We do detestable things, you know. But especially when confronted with Israel. You know, you remember he just cast off a whole bunch of people. Made them all Esau's, essentially, and rejected them. People say, oh, they come back. I don't think so. No, just like Esau, he doesn't come back. Certain sons of Belial, when they, people say, well, all Israel will be saved. The way that works is a little different than I think people understand. It's like you can lose. It doesn't mean that the individuals are all going to make it. I mean, just the whole thing is going to come through all right. We still have all of Israel here, even though along the way there are a lot of souls that may have fallen by the wayside. But Israel had the Lord. They had his word. They had the prophets and Moses. And they had been led through the wilderness. Now they were delivered from the Assyrian. And how in the face of all that they could still turn to idols. It's abominable. But understandable. Because human beings are so just weak and foolish. You know what I mean? Like, I see it over and over again. You think, how could it be? Like it's Jesus said it similarly, and I feel like in our time it's true. People are always like, if I had been in those days, I wouldn't have followed idols. They say, oh, if I had been in the days of slavery, I would have opposed slavery. Oh, if I had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have partaken with the blood of the prophets. Jesus said, that's what you say. People always say like, oh, right, hindsight 2020. What did you do last summer? What did you do last summer? I see the degree of my own cowardice. I might go around without a mask, but like sometimes I don't want to I just don't want the fight at the doctor's office because they'll win there. I mean, they're very insistent, right? I don't consider it entirely cowardice because I still bend the rules. As far as like because on some level, I do believe in home rule. You have the right to tell people what to do in your house. As far as like, if you want to come into my house, you have to wear a mask, right? Someone has a right to. You have the right not to go into their house. You don't have to go into their house. You know what I mean? Now, places where they're open to the public, though, I think are a little different. That's why I think hospital is a little bit on the edge because it's like, all right, these are the medical experts and whatever. And it's in charge of their building it's not a public hospital, it's a private hospital. I disagree, but, I know on that level, right? But I'm just saying, it's like, I don't know if you don't fight back now in some way, shape, or form, don't tell me, oh, when Antichrist comes, I'm gonna fight. You are? Everybody's gonna... Oh, but this time it'll matter. It doesn't matter now. It's like, what will future generations say about us? The generation that just abdicated liberty for all generations. I mean, it's not that for myself I would give up my liberty. For me, if God called me to slavery, if God called me to be a slave, to do what I'm told and just be a cog in the machine of a government power, whatever. If God sold me to them, like he sold the Israelites, then I would go, and God is good, and what am I going to say? Naked came I into the world, and naked I go out. I can't say anything against the Lord, certainly. I mean, I'm not going to like it. But can I just abdicate my responsibility that was handed me by my forefathers to uphold the liberty that we have in this country, to protect it, and just walk away from that for my children and their children? I can decide for them, oh, you all be enslaved. See, that's where it gets complicated. It's one thing if it's just me, I don't care about me. I don't care about wearing a stupid mask. That's how we felt at first. We were like, oh, whatever. It's like the first couple of weeks. But after a while, I was like thinking, like, this isn't going to end. And it hasn't, has it? And I go around barefaced looking at people, and they're still wearing their masks. And listening to the nonsense, and they're screwing it up. That's fine. Hey, go ahead, screw it up. It'll wash out. The thing is, the damage done is so horrific, people don't even realize it yet. But whatever. Whatever. Oh, the Lord is good. It will be peace in my days, saith Hezekiah. Don't choose an idol in the face of the Lord. You know, God has revealed himself to me. Why would I turn back to the beggarly elements, you know? I have raised up one from the north. This is the first time he's mentioned this. He'll talk about it more. It's Cyrus. He's alluding to this here. From the rising of the sun shall he call upon my name. And I'll just say right off the bat, the first time we encounter Cyrus here, this is the number one reason people think this is a different Isaiah. I do see the linguistic differences, and it may be a different writer. For all I know, Isaiah may have gotten old. It may be that there was a second Isaiah. I don't know. But the reason people believe there's a second Isaiah and that it was much later, written after the Babylonian captivities, which is because they think, because it mentions Cyrus, like by name. Well, I think in chapter 45. I'm not going to go there right now. We'll get there. I think, coming up. He's the man from the north. It mentions Cyrus. From the rising of the sun shall he call upon my name. You know, that's to me, that's from the beginning. Yes, like daily he will call my name, like from the rising of the sun. That's a sign of someone who walks with God. But also can mean from the beginning, like he will be raised in that way. From the very start, you know. That's how I grew up. You know, like I've been calling on the name of Jesus from my nativity. You know, as far as you know, because when I was an infant, his name was being prayed over me. You know what I mean? It's like my language began with the name of God being Jesus. You know, that's how I came into the world. And that's how Cyrus, you know, it could either be a daily thing, like he walks with God. Often they just say that. I don't know. But anyways, those are two ideas about how that might be looked at. And he should come upon princes as upon mortar, as the potter treadeth clay. The potter treading clay, I assume it means that he needs the clay. Because reconnection successful. Thank you. I just take 5 seconds to watch that thing, hoping it's going to come back on. But we're recording. We can upload it if there's a problem. All right. So mortar. I do think it's like he will come upon princes and he will I'm going to fix you. You know what? I'm going to mold the princes. Instead of letting Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, let the young men of his court lead him in a foolish path that caused him to have his kingdom divided. Whereas the old men, the advisors, were saying, you know, this is what you should do. You know, the people have had a very hard time. Your dad taxed them a lot, and the kingdom is glorious. And if you want to really solidify yourself in the kingdom is kind of stressed right now. How about you just lower it and speak kindly to them and say, hey, it's going to be great, you know, and they'll serve you forever at this point, because this is a glorious kingdom. And, you know, and if the king is good, they're going to be happy. But instead, he took the path of the young men, told him, my father chastised you with serpents. I forget what he says, but I will chastise you with scorpions, you know. I think it was actually whipped you with whips or whatever. His point was, I will be much harsher than my father. He went the authoritarian route. I'll squeeze him even harder. And that is always that's when things break. The harder you squeeze, it's even, the more you tighten your grip, the more galaxies will slip through your fingers. It's not, that doesn't come from that. It's well known. Can't hold too tightly. Nobody likes to be squeezed. funny because that's my name. I am the great Squeezini. Anyways, raised up from the north, he shall come from the rising of the sun, shall he call upon my name. And he shall come upon princes as upon water, as the powder treadeth clay. So what is that? Well, I think it means, like I said, he will, upon princes, again, it doesn't mean like his own sons, like Prince Charming or whatever, this nonsense. It means like other house, royal, nobility type people. It usually means like the nobles. What we would call the nobility. They don't call nobles here because there is a word they translate noble, but it usually means something like a volunteer or someone who is of a noble spirit. Whereas they tend to use the word prince for what we would consider like lesser nobility. I mean, not the king, but like some duke or something, you know. So he's coming upon, I think that's what means is he's going to come upon them, and I guess as the bricklayer is very adept with his mortar, and as the potter knows with the nobility, he's going to have an orderly government. He's going to be a powerful ruler. You know what I mean? He's going to and it may mean enemy princes too, which means he's going to just be able to turn, because they are both sort of building and creative things, right? It could be like a violence thing if it was just as the potter treadeth clay, but it's clay and not grapes, let's say, as though tread the winepress, because there's there are definite prophetic images that he uses for wrath. This is not exactly wrath. There is a power dynamic here, but it's not about him being angry. It's more about I think, control. As the potter has power over the clay. That is usually, when we talk about potters and stuff, it usually has to do with, yes, he's forceful, he's strong, he does what he wants. He's the creator of these things. The potter is in complete control of the clay. And so this one from the north, Cyrus, the king of Persia, who's going to defeat the Babylonians. And also, he is the one who will, or at least, I'm not sure exactly which one, but one of the emperors of Persia are the ones who command to restore and rebuild the Jewish temple. And that was an important prophetic event because it also sets off the timer that lets us know that Jesus should have appeared in the 1st century, because that's when the prophecy of Daniel says the Messiah must appear. There's just no other time. And that's from Daniel, because of he gave the number of years, a precise number of years, but it's like, since there's some dispute about when did the commandment go forth, it doesn't matter, because if you take both numbers, they overlap with the time Jesus was on the earth. So, relax. It doesn't matter. That's close enough. I mean, there can't be another time for Messiah. It can't come Messiah. There's not going to be some new, I don't know what the Jews are waiting for. I'm guessing they don't really think too much about Daniel, Certainly not that part. Because it's not exactly when you read it, it tells you when Messiah is going to come. It's like reading the bus schedule after you miss the bus. Why would a rabbi point you in that direction? Hey, I want you to give me a real thorough assessment of this. That's what happened. There was a Russian Jew, Orthodox Jew, and he was wondering what happened to Messiah, and he was studying and thought he should have appeared, because he was studying Daniel, and he's like, he should have appeared in the 1st century. And he never even heard of Jesus. And then he somehow discovered the New Testament. And he was like, here it is. That's what, you try to keep people in the dark. That's what happens. And become ripe for the gospel. And that's interesting. That's good connection here to verse 27, right? I will give to Jerusalem one that brings good tidings. But that's not so much talking about Jesus at this point. Though Cyrus is a type of Christ, okay? Behold my servant. A lot of this stuff is directed at, there are ways in which Isaiah would look at it as being for his time too, because, or things that were coming in soon. And Cyrus was a bringer of good tidings to Jerusalem because he gave forth the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, or at least one of the one of the kings of Persia. I'm not sure if it was the Cyrus here or I should probably check on that since we're going to be talking about Cyrus. I'll get that information. I will do a little prep there, I think. I'll at least look at the materials I have. So who hath declared this from the beginning, who we may know before time, who we may say he is righteous. When God does these things, they're predictive. And we know, because he fulfills and keeps his word, that he's righteous. He keeps his word. But what about, there's none that can show these things. There's none that can declare these things. There's none that heareth your words. That last verse throws me off a little bit. There's none that, because there's none that showeth, there's none that declares, there's none that hear you. Oh, I get, well, there's no one hears you talking. That's the way I would take that as a force. Because it's like, I got confused because I was like, wait a second, you have words, but no one can hear them? It's, I think that's what it means. Like I said, no one can hear you talking. The force of it. No one can hear your words. No one can hear your words. That you got words, I can't hear them. That's the force of that. Okay. I think, because I otherwise it makes no sense. The first shall say to Zion, behold them, and I will give to Jerusalem one that bringeth good tidings. Okay. The first who what? When we said I with the first, I the first and with the last. But also, in this context, as we talked about last time, he means this, I, the Lord, with the, how did he phrase the first part of that when he said with the first? And with the last. I, the Lord, the first and with the last, I am he. There's no with on the first, so that's why it says, I am the Lord, I am the first. But he is, of course, first and last. But also there are other firsts and lasts. There's the first with whom he makes his covenant, Abraham, or Abram at the time. But let's see. How would that fit in? Let's see. The first shall say to Zion, behold, behold them. Oh, wait a second. Okay. Because these beholds, behold what? And I think he means his servants. Specifically his ideal servant, Christ, right? So his servant whom he upholds, his elect, is that what it means? Well, because I'm thinking about the words and stuff. The first shall say to Zion. Now, I think what it means in that sense, the first that comes with the good tidings, with God's, because they have no words, right? But God has words, and his prophets come. One that brings good tidings, the bringer of the gospel is basically what that means, because the gospel is the good tidings. First shall say. Yeah, I'm not sure. Even when I read that the whole time, I'm never quite sure what he wanted me to tie that to. Back to Abraham? Whatever. But there's one at Zion, so to speak, who, the idols have no predictive power for what's going to happen, and God has shown himself. He knows what's going on. He did it from the beginning. He delivered them from the Assyrian. He's telling them what's going to happen now. The first shall say to Zion, look, behold them, look at them, look at them. Maybe it means the first, if it refers to like Abraham or the sort of, or Christ as first in a sense also. Behold them, the idols. How about that? Look at them. Look at them. Because it's still very negative, because why? I will give one to Jerusalem the good tidings, for behold, for I looked. He's saying, look at them, look at them. I looked. And there was no man, even among them, and there was no counselor that when I asked of them could answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity, their works are nothing, their molten images are wind and confusion. So the first, whoever the first is going to say to Zion, look at them. That's probably Jesus. You know what I mean? He's the first. Because though Abraham is first, also Christ is first, right? And I don't know, it's a little mysterious, right? It seems to me, it's easy to just say Jesus, okay? That's real easy. Or the Spirit of the Lord, or the Lord's Spirit in a prophet, whatever. But I think I've got that right. I think behold them. I gotta say that's look at the idols. Like really see them. Because he looks, and there was no man among them, and there was no counselor. When I asked of them, could answer. I was looking, and I couldn't find. They couldn't answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity. Their works nothing. Their molten images are wind and confusion. So that I think I will bring to Jerusalem, because of course, prophecy of one, the restoration of Jerusalem. Though it's not destroyed at the time of the Assyrians, it will be destroyed at the Babylonian time. And the commandment, the part about rebuilding the temple, I don't think is explicitly in here, but just that Zion would receive good tidings. For I beheld, and there was no man, even among them, no counselor. Works in the molten images, wind and confusion. Wind is going to be ruach in Hebrew. I'm just going to check that. Oh, let's see. I'm just going to say wind, ruach, breath, wind, spirit. Now it's funny because you think, well, spirit, they're molten images of spirit, but sometimes the word means, depending on the context, it means like nothing. You're like, the wind, it's nothing. It's interesting because God is a spirit. And they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Spirit, on some level, on a certain level, as far as human understanding is nothing. That's why it was interesting when there was an atheist who was talking about this subject, and he was saying just that's impossible. You can't have a disembodied intelligence that has nothing. It can't be made of nothing. Like pure spirit, what is that? You know what I mean? But it's like that's not the contention that spirit is nothing. Obviously, in a material sense, it's nothing, so it can be drawn as an analogy for nothing. Because what do I have? I got a cup full. Spirit is true, but how about a cup full of spirit? You know what I mean? It's like, or I'm there. There's a lot of times when like spirit is kind of like what? Because it's nothing in a material sense. A cup full of spirit is about that could only possibly be some sort of analogy, like have a cup full of spirit, because if I mean it literally, or tohu, definite outlines. And that's what, meaning the molten images, God down. Always trying to nail God down. Because it's more easy to communicate God if you can all there is to know. You have to be curious about God. I don't even think that's his job. His job ought to be, I don't know. Because pastor means, so shepherd. His job ought to be to put churches together, probably. As far as, and I guess if they have no prophets to speak, you'd have to have the pastor talk. How boring is that going to be? Because it's like the idea that there's this multi-purpose tool that just sending someone to school automatically equips them for the job at hand. It means they're chosen of God. I don't know, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, obviously I don't think so. So, we have 5. You know what I'm going to do, just close out the study. I'm just going to read through the next chapter. Just so we get it, let's get it once in context with what we read. And that way, going into it tomorrow, it'll have a good effect. And also, I have a whole song for this on my website, Oracle. I wish I'd had that, if I'd published that one, I could just play the whole thing at the end here, and I could, I should play one of my songs at the end of every study, and then every one of them would have commercials. Which would, whatever, you know, I want to, I part of me is like, yeah, monetize that way. Just let everything have commercials. Because I don't mind taking their money. It's yours I don't want to take. Though I do. I've yet to return a donation, so yes, no, thank you all. All right. Okay, we're going to read through it real quick. Not real quick. It'll take about 5 minutes. That's what we have left, so let's go. Behold my servant whom I uphold, mine elect in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be discouraged till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Thus saith God, the Lord, that created the heavens, and stretched them out, he that spread forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thy hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, to them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. To the sea and all that is therein, the isles and the inhabitants thereof. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar doth inhabit. Let the inhabitants of the rocks sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Let them give glory unto the Lord and declare his praise in the islands. The Lord shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. I have long time holden my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills, and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers islands, and will dry up the pools. I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to the molten images, Ye are our gods. Hear ye deaf, and look ye blind, that ye may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant, seeing many things, but thou observest not, opening the ears, but he heareth not? The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith, Restore. Who among you will give ear to this? And who will hearken for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil, and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore he hath poured upon them the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew it not. And it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart. And that's a good message about, and what we were talking about at the end of the last chapter. They choose idols anyways. They choose idols anyways. Man would rather have a fixed image of God than know the living God. And on some level, that's understandable because the true living God, the very idea, ought to terrify us. On a certain level, certainly. If not for the gospel of Jesus Christ, I should be scared out of my wits at the life I've led. I mean, not compared to some people, but I mean, a lot of my life was shaped by Christ. But like when I think about the early part of my life, in things I did and stuff, it's like, yeah, I think I ought to have, I don't know if I'm scared out of my wits, but certainly I have not been perfect in the sight of the Lord, right? But I've been trying to please him, so also that's different. But I'm saying if you suddenly came upon this knowledge after a lifetime of disregarding it, that you had to stand before a judge, but no gospel, how would we stand up? Maybe not so great. All right, thanks for joining this study. Look forward to being back again. Well, I know for sure not good at all. Without the...
The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces, and grind the face